Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is David and I talk about books, mostly Stephen King, but I talk about horror, fantasy, sci-fi, and a few YA books in there to stop me from getting bored from time to time. So before I get started, I just want to say that this whole setup is different to me. I'm usually holding my phone up to my face while I record, I'm still getting used to doing it like this, in this way. But I'm doing it this way because I want to try to improve my content and to make it more interesting for you guys to actually watch. Also, it lets me have like two hands free. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about a book that I didn't necessarily thought I was going to pick up. The subject matter I didn't think I was going to be reading. But because of the death of George Floyd, I'm doing this for him and his memory. It's actually dedicated to the memory of George, and I am doing this because this is kind of a reading marathon that's called the Blackout Buddy Read. If you're unsure about what that is, I have done a whole video about it on my channel, so please check it out. I've done a whole playlist called Black Lives Matter, in that video, in that playlist, it has a video called Black Lives Always Matter. So please check out them videos. They're kind of a follow-up, or part 1 and part 2 of each other. And this is sort of part 3 to that. So, but you can watch them individually and get hopefully enjoyment out of each and every single one of them. So what is the Blackout Buddy Read? That is pretty much from the 5th of June to the 19th of June. You're encouraged to read any book that you want that actually deals with racism, Black history, or is written by a Black author, or has Black characters throughout the whole book. And obviously they had like recommendations or suggestions of books that you could actually pick up and read. But the book that I chose to actually read was a suggestion, which was suggested to me on the channel Books with Shae, which was brought to my attention by a channel called Perks of a Bookflower. And she said, oh, okay, that means Shae's setting up this whole reading marathon. And I thought, okay, I'll take part in it. I'm actually doing this not because it's sort of trendy or for the views. I'm doing this because, as Finn said in Star Wars The Force Awakens, I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. And the book I chose to read for this marathon is White Rage by Carol Anderson, who is a professor of African American Studies at the University of Emory in Atlanta, Georgia, and she was born on the 17th of June 1959. Before I read this, because I downloaded it straight onto my Kindle after I saw this, saw Shae's video. So on the night before I was going to be picking this up, I hardly slept that night, and because I was thinking, oh my god, this is going to bash white people around, it's going to talk down to us, and it's going to make me ultimately feel ashamed about being a white man. More or less because I work at cinema, and every time I watch films about racism, it always makes me feel incredibly guilty, which it really should do. It should make you feel uncomfortable, and this book does make you feel uncomfortable. But don't think of it in that way. Think of it as a way of educating yourself about history, and because trust me, this book doesn't hold back. This book is brutal. It really is. So if I didn't say it already, this book was published on the 31st of May 2016, and it actually won an award, the National Book Critics Circle Award in 2016. So before I get started, I just want to say that this is going to be my own thoughts and feelings towards this book. Oh, sorry guys. If your thoughts and feelings are different than mine, that is fine. You're entitled to have your own thoughts and opinions. But I'm going to be reviewing this book fairly, because as a kind of respectful way towards George Floyd's memory and towards the black community as a whole. I'm not going to praise this book highly because of that, I'm going to give it a fair review because I respect the black community a lot. So, and I mean, also, I mean, at this point, I would actually say that I would, I mean, this is going to be a spoiler-free, video, rather. Sorry, I do have a stutter, so apologies for that. I can't help it. But White Rage isn't, is a non-fiction book, so it doesn't really have spoilers in it because it's a history book. This is the second non-fiction book I read in 2020. The first being Nightmares in the Sky, which is a gargoyle book written by Stephen King. White Rage is a book that deals with Black history and racism, and it starts off with slavery, and then it goes right up until 2016 to Donald Trump's election, or when he was elected. As I said, this is actually written from the perspective of American society, and this is actually completely set over in America. She deals a lot with American politics and American history, and American presidents pop up in this book from time to time as well. Obviously, because I'm from the UK, I'm British, I didn't really study or have a chance to study American history or American politics. Obviously, I've been watching the news about all the stuff with Donald Trump and all that stuff, and about Annual Obama when he was president as well. But I don't really know much about it, so it does talk about the Constitution in this and amendments. Hopefully I've said it right. I'm not sure what they are. I mean, some of the stuff in this, I did understand to a basic understanding, but some of the stuff completely went over my head and I didn't really understand it. So if you're American, or if you have studied American politics or history, then this is a book for you. But if you're like me and you haven't studied, or if you hardly know anything about American politics or American history, then this book isn't really for you. But this book does need to be actually read. It really does need to be read. So let me just read. Let me just read you the little part that I highlighted at the beginning of the book. Also, this is about 160 pages long. It has a prologue, and it has which actually should be read, and it has 5 chapters in it, which I read a chapter every day. So I read the whole thing in about 6 days. So this is how the book actually starts off with. This is the prologue. And apologies if I say somebody's name wrong. I'm terrible with names. So this is how the book starts. Although I first wrote about White Rage in Washington, in the Washington Post opt following the killing of Michael Brown and the subsequent uprising in Ferguson, Missouri, the concept started to germinate much earlier. It was in the wake of another death at the hands of the police. That of, and I can't say his name. I don't really want to attempt to say his name because I know I'm going to butcher it. But that of this individual, which I'll put his name down in the description down below. A West African immigrant who stepped out of his apartment building in New York City was mowed down in a hail of NYPD bullets on February the 4th, 1999. So that's how the book starts. It completely kicks you right in the family jewels and gut punches you every single time. It actually has them things in it which is really powerful, and it makes you feel not really like guilty, but it does educate you. It tells you about it. It doesn't really it tiptoe around the issue, thinking, okay, I'm going to tiptoe around the issue and try not to offend people. It doesn't. Even though it doesn't offend people, it does educate you about what life was like back in the day for black people. All they wanted was to have a good place to live. Like a house, a job, the actual right to vote, which is a big issue in this book as well. or not an issue, but it is a big subject in this book. And also, education for for not just themselves, but for their children as well, because it starts off as as I said, with slavery, and slave masters didn't strongly discourage them from actually reading and writing, and they the things that they've done to black people, it's incredibly shameful. It really is. So let me just read you another little excerpt I've done as well, a little section. This is from the first chapter. So this is actually really powerful, guys. This is really, really gut punching. So this is this is about the draft riots in New York City in the year 1863. So a very long time ago. So this is what they said. So, black men and black women were attacked, but the rioters singled out black men for special violence. On the waterfront, they hanged William Jones, and then burned his body. White dock workers also beat and nearly drowned Charles Jackson, and they beat Jerome Robinson, I'm pretty sure that's what his name is, or to death, and threw his body in the river. Writers also made a sport of mutilating the black men's bodies, sometimes sexually. A group of white men and boys mortally attacked black sailor William Williams, jumping on his chest, plunging a knife into him, smashing his body with stones, while a crowd of men, women and children watched. None intervened, and when the mob was done with Williams, they cheered, pledging vengeance on every N-word in New York. What the frick? Obviously I can't swear because I don't really want to get in trouble by YouTube. But you cannot, you could not discriminate against a person by the shade of their skin. It is wrong. But that's what it was back in this year of 1863. In New York, because but this wasn't just white men. This was white women and white children as well, and they actually regarded this as not really a sport, but as a form of, I guess, of entertainment. But it is really a shameful about what we did, because it really does, because this is something I'm getting extremely passionate about, as you might be aware of by watching my video. But that is incredibly brutal as well. Bodies getting burned, beaten. These poor men probably got beaten to death and were to an extreme degree of pain and agony, and then got burnt and stomped on by children, and they were probably thinking, oh, it's a game, we'll jump on this black man because our parents have told us to, and it really is uncomfortable reading this and actually saying this and talking to you about this, but it is essential, because this is our past, and we have to think about where we are going as a future, as a human race, because this book does talk about she does talk about the white race and black race. But what about the human race? Let me actually just read you, the final thing that I actually highlighted as well. This is the last thing that I'm going to be talking about in this book. A little bit of of perspective for this, but for this bit. So cast your minds back. It's the time of slavery, and black people are in plantations, and white men are basically slave masters. They've got rifles and they are probably hovering around these black slaves with rifles, wanting to shoot them. And I mean, in this chapter, which is the second chapter of the novel, of this book, it talks about specifically a very nasty white man that had numerous black slaves, and as the book describes him, he is a complete douchebag. He is the most meanest person that you could possibly ever encounter. I mean, if you think that your boss is horrible, trust me, they don't have anything up. I mean, they don't have anything against this man. So one day there was this. So this is obviously based on true stories. There is a man that actually stood up to this white man, this black slave, and he got a rifle and shot his I mean I don't really want to say white, his white like this white man in the chest. This is extremely hard for me to talk about, as you probably can tell. So after this black man rose up and said, "No, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm going to stand up for myself. I mean, basically, I've got rights, and you can't do this to me." So he shot him straight into the chest with, I think it was like a rifle or a shotgun, and he was actually hanged, I think, by doing this by white rioters, and they actually found his wife. And this is what this is actually what they done with his wife. And some of these white rioters were related to this white plantation owner of all these slaves. And this is what this says. This is extremely powerful. You think that what I just read was hard to actually hear. You wait until I read this. They dragged Mary to a tree. Mary being this black man's wife. Stripped her, tied her ankles together, and strung her upside down. The men ran to their cars, brought back gasoline, and began to roast her alive. Then they saw her naked, 8 months pregnant stomach, convulsing. That only sent the mob, made up of several of Hampton Smith's brothers, which I'm pretty sure might have been the black slave. Not like the black slave, the white plantation owner, as well as a clerk in a post office, an adult, auditor for the Standard Oil, a furniture salesman, and several farmers, into a deep frenzy, as one man took out his knife, sliced away at her charred flesh until the baby, now ripped out of the womb, fell to the ground and gave 2 cries. Someone in the lynch party then stepped forward and smashed the child's head into the ground, into the red Georgia dirt with the heel of his boots. Now think about that. This woman who is trying to escape from these white lynchers she's tied to a tree upside down. She's burnt alive while pregnant, and then they cut out her. Then they get a knife while she's still probably screaming and in incredible pain. They cut open her pregnant belly, rip the white baby out of her womb, chuck it on the ground, and then stomp on its head because of what shade this stuff is. It is incredibly horrifying. I do read a lot of horror stories because I read a lot of Stephen King, but my God, this takes it to a whole new, different level. It really does. This novel actually goes on talking about about black history up until Donald Trump's election. So if you're kind of triggered by Donald Trump, I wouldn't really read it or be aware that he does talk about Donald Trump a lot. It does talk about Obama as well, and as I said, this book is extremely brutal as well. So What I liked about it, I liked its honesty, and you know, and it's extremely honest. And what I disliked about the book is, you know, is the way. I mean, what I've actually just read, it's extremely hard to read that, and it's uncomfortable to read that, but it's essential to read that stuff. So in a way, that I can't really see that as a kind of a dislike. So my closing thoughts with a White Rage, it's as I said, it's extremely hard to read. Don't think of it as a book about you know, about the white race being bashed all the time and being talked down to. Think of it as a more of an educational history book. What I would rate this book is a 4 stars out of 5. I would definitely read this again, probably next year. And I am going to be watching some stuff on Netflix about Black history. Because on Netflix you have there is numerous things that you can actually watch that is that's under the category of Black Lives Matter, and I will be doing a video about where I talk about all the stuff I'll be watching on Netflix, just specifically under that category of Black Lives Matter, and I will be doing a video about that, uploading that on the 19th of this month. So please check it out as well. Doing a little mini review about them. So yeah, sorry about this video. It's been a bit long, and I'm trying to get used to the way I'm recording right now. And so yeah, please like this video, comment down below, let me know what you think, and please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep reading, no matter what it is. See you guys. And also remember, Black lives do matter.